is.
Oh, I'm the culprit. I was hoping it wasn't me.
Yeah, you're the culprit. I'm sitting going, what? What is that?
Happy anniversary, by the way.
Yeah, right. There you go.
Yeah. It was a verse. It was Acts 18. Me and my buddy are going through the book of Acts, just chapter by chapter, and I was just looking at verse 18 of chapter 18 when he says that in Cenchrea he had cut his hair, assuming for like a Nazirite vow or whatever. And I guess just trying to relate it apologetically would just, maybe I have an understanding of, in the New Testament, Christ is the fulfillment, right? He's the substance, and the things of the old, were a shadow, right, of the things to come. And so I was just kind of wondering, was that just for, for the first, not just for the first century, but you know what I mean, as far as keeping vows and having things of the Old Testament that we can still do today, as far as feasts and festivals, and even the Nazirite, vow is just kind of interesting to me. I just kind of wanted your thought on it. Yeah.
Well, that's what I was afraid you were going to talk about. I almost sent Rich a message, lose Joshua, or ask Joshua to come up with something else to ask about. There's a lot of discussion of that very thing, and entire papers have been written on Paul and vows. And I've read some in the past, but it's been a while, so I'm not going to say that I'm up on the current literature on the specific issue of Paul and vows. But there would seem to be, first of all, something relevant to the reality of. I'm by the way, I'm willing to go to 3:30 if the calls are if we get enough calls. So if you want to go ahead and unbusy that line, and we can take some more calls. 877-753-3341. Not everyone has to be like Joshua, but anyway, just pick on him while we're at it. My son's named Joshua, so I pick on all Joshuas. But anyway, there obviously people who promote a sort of a Messianic Jewish type thing would point to something like this and say, see, you can do vows and things like that as a Jewish person. And I would think that AD 70 is sort of the cutoff on that. The apostles met in the temple, they prayed in the temple, all that kind of stuff. But they didn't and couldn't. And eventually, even the connection that was born with the synagogue, because of the fact that, when you think about it, the early Christians, where were the only scriptures that they had available to them? They would be in the synagogues. It's not like they were running around with a New King James or something like that, or King James. Sorry, that didn't mean to offend anyone. But eventually, there is a division. Now, some would argue there never should have been one. Well, I don't know how there couldn't have been one, especially after AD 70. But that seems to come to an end. You couldn't do those kinds of things after AD 70. You certainly not could go to the synagogue to do that kind of thing. And so, is this just Paul exercising his freedom as a Jewish person to demonstrate that he has not rejected that which is good? Because when I think of a Nazirite vow, I don't see that as some type of a, there's not, I cannot imagine Paul offering sacrifice for sin, participating in Yom Kippur or something like that. But something to where you have vowed to God to do something, that and there's not a sacrifice in regards to sin or something like that. Well, did he feel that there was a freedom to be able to do that? Possibly. I would hate to try to argue against that in light of this text and a couple other things that the apostle did. Most people would simply say, well, this is a transitionary period, and some would say that Paul was inconsistent. I would think by this point in Paul's ministry, he would have already had faced after Acts chapter 15. He's already had to face these issues, and hence would have a firm grasp of these things. But some people will make that argument that there is evolution in Paul's. You'll pick that up in a lot of New Testament commentaries and stuff like that. That's why I warn people, if they're going to go out and look it up, they might go, what's that all about? So. But yeah, it's a good catch, and it's a tough area, and it's a tough question. That's why I don't like you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It was either that or coherence-based genealogical methods.
Well, but see, I love that. So that's cool. But I should have figured if you're in Orlando, people in Florida are just weird. That's all there is to it. So. Anyways, it's because it's flat. I'm sorry, but I don't. That's why I can't live in Dallas. I can't live in Florida. If you don't have mountains, then you never know which way you're facing. So I can't do it. I can't do it. So
I appreciate you, Dr. White. Thank you for taking my call.
Thanks, Josh. All right, have a good one.
Yes, sir. Have a good one.
I'm seeing that other people are hanging up because they don't want to be abused by. He's mean.